And welcome to the postgame show here in the Circle in Oklahoma City. Game 1 of the National Championship Series is complete. Florida State comes out on top 8-4 over Oklahoma. I'm Eric Lopez alongside UNLV head coach and two-time national champion Kristie Fox joining us once again. Welcome back.
Thank you. I'm excited. I'm excited to be back. It's been an exciting week.
It's been a wild week, a lot of news, and especially about that jersey in the background. We'll ask you about that jersey later on. But you're an offensive player. You must have liked this offense tonight, an offensive onslaught, but it was Florida State, coach, that had the offense, especially early, jumping on the Sooners. So much attention, rightfully so, in Oklahoma. But FSU, to me, has been the big story offensively in the last two nights, knocking out Montana Fouts. And here tonight, knocking out Nicole May, scoring 7 early, going on an 8-4 win. This offense has come to life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you talk about losing the first game of the series. That's not what you want to do. However, it's allowed this team to get a lot of at-bats under their belt and a lot of competition at the plate. And they've just been building that momentum from each and every game. So you see the players just building more and more confidence throughout this entire series, getting those key hits, putting pressure on the defense. So although, no one wants to lose that first game, I think in a small way, it's really helped their team kind of just gain confidence by performing on this huge stage. It's been really impressive.
It really has. And they have the great arms. That's what's kind of got them to this point. But their offense, this year was kind of struggling a little bit. They didn't hit for much power. They depended on their speed. But yet it's kind of started to click, and their speed gave Oklahoma some issues there towards the back end of that game. We saw them there, challenged them a couple steals. I mentioned in our pregame show we had Jessica Schultz on, and I told her, look, Florida State's going to run on you. They've stolen 114 bases coming into this game, and they weren't going to be afraid of Oklahoma. And I got a sense, I don't know if you get a sense watching it, Florida State, and this is very typical Coach Alameda, you former UNLV head coach, by the way, so that's kind of ironic, but They play loose. Right? Like I feel like they're just playing this game like, hey, it's May 1st and not like the Women's College World Series. And that's always been their philosophy, and it's paying off for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that it's been really impressive how much they've stuck to their identity. Like you said, here they are running against a catcher who, has done amazing this entire year. That's why they're back there. They're trying to, navigate their entire lineup so that they can have their best catcher behind the plate to start this game to combat Florida State's running. And they decided to run anyways and found success. So they really just kind of are sticking to their game, letting those hits come when they can. But for the most part, they're not changing their identity as their bats start to get better. They're sticking with what they do, putting pressure on the defense, keeping their runners moving, moving very quickly from mistakes and not changing their game plan. It's been really impressive to see them kind of have a game plan, get in the box and execute it, know what they want to do on the base path. And then their coaches, putting the pressure right on OU from the very beginning.
What did you see there that they were so successful against Nicole May, who got the ball? They just owned her there. And even some people were wondering if maybe Coach Gasso and the Sooners maybe kept her in too long because they kind of teed off of her when they had that big inning.
Yeah, definitely. I think that the pitching choices today were definitely something to talk about. I think both coaches think that this series is going to go the full set. And it was really about kind of gathering information, seeing if they could get some of their other pitchers a little bit of rest time, and then go from there. I thought Florida State did a really good job of making that pitcher, May, come into the zone. They weren't swinging at anything really out, giving her anything extra. They made her come in the zone, and when they did, they took advantage of it. So as far as their discipline at the plate, I was really impressed with kind of their approach, and just they obviously had knowledge about her. How much they've seen her, probably not very much, knowing that she's only thrown around 17 innings coming into this series, or not as many innings, but they just really stayed focused and stayed in their zone. And I think that that's why they did find success, is when the ball's over the plate, good things happen.
Go back to what you said, because Lonnie said the same thing in the on the broadcast about gathering information. So I guess that's what she told Holly Rowe, that why are you starting Watson? Well, we're early in the series. We're gathering information. Just explain that for maybe the casual fan, the audience there, what a coach is thinking from that standpoint. Here, people are thinking, man, game one, what do you go with your best and things like that. But there's a bigger picture. Talk about what it means about as far as gathering information in a game one of a championship series. What kind of things are you looking for?
I think if you look at the pitchers that have been throwing up into this point, they're both OU and Florida State has really taken a staff approach to this entire series, which that's not normally what we see. We usually see a dominant one with support from a two when we get to this point. And here we are, in the championship game, and we're seeing three pitchers on each staff getting quality innings and quality time. And that's just very different. I think that, both of them coming out of the losers bracket and losing that first game and having as many innings pitched as they have, they were really kind of taking this first game and trying to buy their other pitchers a little bit of time, trying to collect some outs early and trying to just, establish attacking some of the holes that their offense has, and then seeing, okay, well, we were able to do this with our three pitcher. Now we know what we're going to be able to do, with, our pitchers who have kind of gotten us to this point. I will say, though, I thought Watson did a really good job. I think that, coach did a great job of showing a lot of confidence in her. There were quite a few times where I was like, okay, here it comes. She's going to make the change. But that's not how Coach Alameda works. And I think that that's something that's so special and unique. And you can really see it in the way her team plays, is that they know she has confidence in them. She lets her players work through things. And that's how they continue to just, that you see the team, the way they play so confident. And like you said, they look so loose. But I think it's because of how she manages them. Yeah. There were probably three times early on where I was like, okay, she got the quality ins that you needed out of her. It's time to close the door. And she stuck with her. And so now we only saw Sandercock out there for 4 outs. That's huge for OU not to have seen her more. Now, when they did see her, I think that they did a really good job against her. But that was the whole plan, is let's have, if Watson's going to do this well, we're going to minimize the amount of time that, OU's going to get the opportunity to see her.
I think she adapted too. I don't think she was planning on going with Watson for 5 2/3, but because you had the big lead, why not keep her in, right? And it was working, and she ate up a lot of innings. And you mentioned save Sandercock. I think, and Lonnie has talked about it all year about how she's adapted to her style as far as handling the pitcher. She used to be one that would just throw their pitcher out the whole game and not go by this committee. Again, they've only had 13 complete games as a staff this year. But I think the fact they jumped out to a 7-0 lead, I think kind of tweaked her plan. And even she said this on Sunday night after the Alabama win. She admitted she changed her approach in that Alabama game once she knew that they weren't going to play a second game that night. That's when she brought in Sandercock to close that game out. She said she probably would not have done that had she known she was going to play a second game. So she's kind of adjusting on the fly here. She might have an idea going in, but she's not afraid to adapt to that. And I think clearly her offense here gave her a chance to keep Watson in there longer than maybe she thought she would.
Absolutely. And I think it gave Watson a lot of confidence having that run support as well. She was able to attack the hitters and pitch with a lot of confidence. And, that's a huge advantage when you have that run support and every pitch is not the end all be all against a team that's as strong offensively 1 through 9 as OU is.
Kaylee, let's talk about this kid, Kaylee Mudge, who has been incredible. 5 hits last night, again, the Alabama win. 3 hits tonight. She's tied the World Series. You used to hold this record. I kind of pumped you up with the record because I remember that 07 series so well. I forgot that Jesse Warren broke your record with 13, and then others, Michelle Moultrie. They play more. I think they play more games now in the World Series. Maybe not. Whatever. I'm giving you a pass. I'm still thinking you're part of the record holder there, but this kid's been unbelievable for them. She's been getting on base, and it's been a big part of this FSU's awakening on this offense. Talk about what you've seen from her that's making her so successful, where she's getting on base every time now.
Yeah, it's really impressive. So, yes, when you said it last time, I was like, well, I know it's been broken, but I was like, I'm going to take that accolade, and I'm just not going to correct him.
So many years, you had that record. It was like ingrained in my brain. That was like my first World Series I ever saw. This is not even a joke. That was the first World Series that I ever saw, and I was hooked. I mean, a lot of people. It's still one of the most watched World Series ever. You in Tennessee. I've talked to you about it. I've talked to Taryn about it. Everybody remembers Taryn. I remember Taryn. Everybody remembers Taryn. But I remembered you. You were kind of the quiet, like, hero there because you were the one that was getting on base all the time.
Yeah, and I was getting walked a lot. I think that, it's I had my senior year, I wasn't an All-American, and I kind of was struggling at the plate, and I peaked at the right time. And, regional, super regional, just kind of like Mudge. You know what I mean? Like, she's really peaked at the right time. She's improved her batting average by almost 100 points. She's done a great job, and she's peaking at the time where her team needs her most. And for her, it's been really exciting, and to see her tie the record tonight, knowing that she potentially has, 9 more at bats potentially, that's just really amazing. And I'm very excited to see, we've seen over time, our players are getting better. The competition is getting better. Just how far the sport has come and how much it's grown. And for us to, I think that everybody that's ever played is excited when these records are being broken. It just shows how much our student athletes are just getting better and better, and the training is getting better, and the strength is getting better. But I think she's been a spark plug for this entire offense and this entire team, and she's done a really good job. And it's been really exciting to see just somebody who maybe you don't think offensively is going to be the one step up when the team needs it most.
When you were in that tear in 07, were you aware of what you were doing, like from a record standpoint? Were you just locked in? Are you in a zone? Describe what it's like, because Kaylee's probably going through the same thing that you went through there in 07. Or do you feel like the ball is just bigger? Does it look bigger? What's it like?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little different because she has this social media where it's just like after every game, people are really like, they're letting you know what they knew on TV and what the stats are on TV and what the announcers said about you on TV. We didn't quite have that as much, when I played. Facebook was still just for college kids, and that's kind of how we, communicated. So I think it's a little different. It's probably even a little bit more pressure filled because she knows. I had no idea. I didn't know until after the fact that, I tied the record at that point for the most hits in the Women's College World Series. So I had no idea, but there's no way that she doesn't know that, with the amount of coverage we're getting and the clips and the top tens and all of the social media. So she's definitely knows. I think that, when you're in those situations, you just feel really confident. And like you said, the ball kind of looks like a beach ball. And even when you're getting out, your mindset doesn't change, because you're like, oh, well, that's bound to happen. This is a game of failure. Whereas if you're in a different situation, sometimes you can allow those moments to snowball. So, I mean, for her just to be, breaking the record and then, I'm just going to try to bunt and put pressure on OU. I know they got her out, but it was still just, that's how much confidence she's playing with right now, that she knows that every aspect of her game can be successsill.
Does that feed off on her teammates too? That as she's rolling and that kind of feeds off on the other hitters. I mean, look at their youngster. Harold had a big game there. Did you sense that when you were in a tear? Did that feed off of your other hitters when you at Arizona there when you were rolling in 07?
Yeah, I think because it takes the pressure off a little bit. You know what I mean? I thought we saw early on a lot of the teams is like I have to be the one because no one else is doing it. Whereas when your mindset is okay, well, hey, she's got this going good. I'm just gonna have a quality at bat right here. That's kind of how you get the whole team going at the same time. And I think you see that in Florida State. They're just having quality at bats from top to bottom. We're not seeing huge power. We're not seeing shots all the time, but we're having quality at bats, and those quality at bats are finding holes. Where on the flip side, you kind of see OU back against the wall early, which they're not used to. And then each and every one is trying to be the one. Like we saw that Alo and, Jennings, like them going hitless. I know they got some towards the end, but, we're not used to that. They're not used to that. And so I think that they're pressing a little bit at the plates, and Florida State is real loose because they just feel like someone's going to pick them up.
Nicole May had a rough night. Some people wondering if she should have been pulled earlier. What did you see that was not working for her? And do you think that they should have pulled her earlier?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they did a good job of not swinging at anything out of the zone. They really made her come zone. They were doing a really good job of fouling off her changeup. Now, I know they talked a little bit about being able to pick that pitch, and, we're not see it, so I don't know if Florida State had it or not, but it did look like they had something that made that not a strikeout pitch, and they were able to not have to worry about it as much. They weren't hitting it, but they were also fouling it off and being able to go back, battle until she had to come back in the zone with her hard stuff. So I thought that they did a really good job. I think that they know their offense is going to be strong. OU, they're confident in their players. We saw it. It was a fight till the very end. So Patty is very, very confident in her hitters. I don't want to be revisionist history, but I definitely feel like there was a moment in that fourth where, I think that she could have shut it down and kept it a little closer. But, she obviously had a game plan. She even brought in Reigns. So she had some kind of game plan in her mind. Would that have been what I would have went with? Probably not. But, she's won quite a few national championships, and she's still got 2 games to try. So I'm not going to try to tell Patty
but I think you bring up a great point. How much of this was like it was game 1 as opposed to like she probably pulls her earlier if it's game 2 or if it's an elimination game, and how much of this is the fact that when you have this historic offense behind you, maybe you tend to give your pitcher more rope because, hey, you give up a few runs, that's okay because we've got our offense to back you up that can score in bunches. We saw that in the regionals against Wichita where they gave up a bunch of runs early, but they would respond. Now, I'm not saying that they shouldn't have pulled her, but I'm just saying I'm thinking from her standpoint, she's probably thinking, look, I think she can get out of it, minimize the damage. We're going to score runs, whereas another team that maybe doesn't have as prolific of an offense maybe pulls the trigger there earlier.
Yeah, I think it's kind of one of those things where she probably feels like it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time till we get on time. We start getting the ball rolling. We start putting the ball in play hard, which they did tonight even. I mean, I thought they hit some balls really hard. It was just right at people. They had some shots at the first baseman. They had some shots down left field. I thought overall, they put some good swings on some pitches and they just didn't fall. So I can see how, she's had so much success this year with this offensive team that she's like, it's a matter of time. It almost looked to me too, like she really didn't want to bring in Sale or G until they were going to get a clean inning. She didn't want to bring them in with runners on and things like that. And sometimes that's how coaches like to work, that they really want their pitchers to come in with a clean inning, nobody on, nobody out.
Right, because some pitchers are better that way, right? Some pitchers do get thrown off if you're bringing them in with runners on base. They're not the same as they would be in a clean inning. Not to say that was the case here, but that could have been a factor there as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're used to being starters, they're used to being starters. So they're used to those clean innings. So that was something that I just thought of maybe that was something kind of playing in the back of her mind. But yeah, offensively, I think that she felt like it was a matter of time. And we started to see it. You started to see it, especially towards the end, that they were getting on time. And, I think that being able to keep the ball in the ballpark against OU is a huge key. And they were able to do that tonight.
Yeah. Obviously, late in the game, the focus became on obstruction. It was only a matter of time. And we saw that in the 7th inning where they called the obstruction on the play there where Muffley got, scores but gets knocked out of the game. It looked to me like, and I think to me it looked like the right call by the rule. But I hate the rule because I don't know what – I feel like, Coach, we're asking way too much out of catchers to do stuff here. Like, did she move her foot before she had the ball short? But she's acting on instincts. I don't think she's intending on – I just feel like the rule is interpreted incorrectly at times, or we're just asking coach – I think we're just asking catchers to do superhuman things sometimes and not realize that, they're going to react. And sometimes you're going to have – collisions. You might have contact. That's part of the sports. I don't know. What's your thoughts on this whole thing? This has been a topic that's been brewing for a few years, and here it is again, the championship. I do think the umpire, in fairness, I do think by the rule they got it right. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I agree. By the rule, I thought that they made the right call there. I think it's tough, like you said. I think it's really tough on the catchers. I think it's tough on all the defensive players. The ball's going to take you into certain positions, and your job is to catch it and then try to apply the tag. And yeah, there's going to be some opportunities where the collision is going to happen. It's tough. I know we want to protect our student athletes and make sure that they stay safe and things like that. I think that this is a rule that, especially after this year, is going to need to be looked at. I think that we made a quick change previously because of a collision. But I don't think we thought through all of the consequences of that change, which sometimes we do as a coaches association. And so I think that, this is not a thing that you and I have an issue with. I think everybody is really seeing that this is a game changer in a lot of opportunities. So how are we going to take care of it so we can allow our players to actually try to play? And I think probably for me, the biggest part is it gives the umpires an out. It gives them an out, and it's an out that as coaches, without replay, we have no argument. If they decide that that is what they saw and that's how they're going to apply the rule, there's nothing we can do about it. You know what I mean? So, Patty probably wanted to go out there, but there is nothing she can do once he applies that rule. There's no argument she can make, that's going to help her cause in any way, shape, or form. So I think it kind of gives the umpires an out to not have to make some really tough calls. And those are really tough calls. Those plate calls are, those are runs that are super important. And so, it's borderline, it gives them an out.
And that, I don't even know if we had instant replay that could be overturned, because it's such a subjective call. Like, it's very, I mean, you could, I guess, if different angles and things like that. But the one that was the worst was the Friday night JMU Oklahoma State, where they get the Oklahoma State base runner in a pickoff between second and third, and they're going back and forth. And JMU didn't execute it that well. There was too many throws there. But they call obstruction because the Oklahoma State runner basically runs into the shortstop, basically, and they barely touched, and they called it obstruction. I hate that. I just think sometimes contact is unavoidable, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, some of the calls, and I think we see it in baseball, and I think we saw it in the SEC tournament, even with replay, there's going to be some times where things are going to get called or they can't be overturned that we don't agree with. But I do think the speed of our game and the athleticism of our athletes is getting to the point where it's just too fast for regular humans to see everything. And so I think that we're to the point where the postseason, I know everyone's not going to be able to implement it right away, but I think starting at the regionals all the way through the end of the year, it's something that we really need to get into our game. I mean, the World Series, what they say, they have like 41, 42 cameras.
42 cameras.
Yeah, we're to the point where, these athletes are playing so hard. They're playing so fast. And these calls are getting bang, bang, and it's time for us to provide that help. And I think the umpires want to get it right, too. So, I thought that in the SEC tournament, the umpires get to make that call later in the game. And what I think it was the 5th or the 6th, they can start deciding, hey, we're gonna use this replay. And we saw the umpires choose to use it without the coaches having to use the challenges. And so I think they want to get it right, too, because I know they know these ladies are working so hard for so long for these opportunities, and they don't want to be the reason looking back. So, I think we're moving in that direction, and it's exciting. And it's things like the interference, the obstruction call, and those things that I think are going to push us over the edge to add it.
Yeah, I mean, I just hope it doesn't get to the point where a national title gets decided on a run scored on an obstruction. I think that's everybody's fear. So I hope they do look at it. And again, I understand the intent was for safety, but I think players would even say, yeah, that's all right. Look, we're getting carried away here. Like, I mean, and then, we go to the bottom of the 7th, the other play, and Patty Gasso just said in the press conference, she took the blame there, sending Jennings. Great relay by Florida State there, but I was surprised that she sent Jennings down 4 as a third, from a standpoint of, you need base runners anyway. Why force the issue there? You need base runners. She did admit that she kind of, she took ownership of that. I just thought Oklahoma, I think it goes back to what you say. At times they look like they pressed. And when you're behind, I guess you tend to press a little bit, right? It's unavoidable.
Yeah, and I think that that's not something that they're used to. Throughout the year, that's not something that they're used to. They're not really used to playing from a huge deficit from behind. And so I think across the board, they were pressing. And, I think that that's a sign of a good coach when you take ownership of making a mistake on a big stage in a big moment and owning it with your players. I think your players are only going to respect you more in those moments. And, then on the flip side, you see the catcher from Florida State do a great job of shifting her weight back and allowing for, the ball to get the ball before moving on forward into making the tag. And, it was a really great relay. I think that, Florida State has some more experience in those situations because they're used to having to play defense. Their pitchers don't have as many strikeout numbers, and so it's a little bit different. They're used to doing that, and I think that they played, especially with the way the defense have had to shift in that last inning with their shortstop coming out. That's going to be, to me, that's going to be a huge piece moving forward. If they pulled her on concussion protocol and seeing what that timeline to come back from is, or if they were just being overly cautious. Because if they were just being overly cautious, then we might get to see her. But if she's in full-on concussion protocol, her World Series might be done. And that's tough. And you could see it in her face. She wanted to be back out there so badly with her team. And so, my heart breaks for her, and I hope we see her again a little later in the series. But yeah, excellent job by Florida State by staying composed and collecting that out that OU happened to give them. It's very easy just to that run doesn't mean anything. Let's just hold the ball and keep the runner at second. But for them to go ahead and feel the confidence to finish that play, that says a lot about kind of the mindset that they're in right now. They're cool, calm, and collected, and they're just going to play the game.
People have been asking me about this, and I do remember seeing it, and they didn't really talk about it in the broadcast. It looked like Travis, did he almost, on third base, touch the runner? Is there because sometimes, and you could, there's a lot of things going on. It's like traffic cop. Runners coming, safe, go, whatever. Sometimes you just have some contact there. What is there any rule about that? Like the third base coach and contacting with the runner? Can they touch him at all or no? Is there any rule on that? I've never heard. I mean, it's very rare, but I've seen it from once in a while where you have contact there, where the runner's and you're pulling their hand, go, don't go, type of thing or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think anybody saw it. I definitely saw it in the replay. I think she's out. You can't hold up and physically touch a player to stop her. So, I mean, obviously we're going to check with the rules committee, and I need to know for sure moving forward, but I'm pretty sure if you tell me tomorrow, that's your job is overnight since I'm coming back on tomorrow, is we got to know for sure. But I think, I don't think you're not supposed to touch them. You can't physically stop them. And I think that the runner, if anyone would have saw it, could have been called out, and that would have been huge.
Yeah, I didn't know that was officially a rule. I mean, they technically have a rules expert in the Kristie Cornwell they've used so far in the World Series. I don't remember that. I don't think they used her, but I don't think they were comprehending. I think they were so distracted by the actual obstruction and the player being down that they completely forgot about that play. And that struck me odd. And I think you're right. Because it's rare. I've seen it occasionally happen. And I think there is a rule where you can't, obviously, because you can't just, obviously you're trying to discourage a coach from grabbing the player and stopping them from going to home plate or whatever. Obviously, that's because you're in play at that point. It's no different than any other sport when a coach, maybe touches the basketball while the game is going on, stuff like that, or a player.
Yeah, they saw it and they briefly mentioned it, but they kind of cruised over it very quickly. I think that with her injury and kind of being worried about her, they just shifted focuses really quick.
So now you get Florida State with a game one lead here. What do you think both teams will talk about as they regroup here for game two? What do you think some of the adjustments will be made from both sides?
Yeah, I mean, I think OU kind of did a really good job late in the game. I think that Lonnie's got some tough choices moving forward with what her choices to pitch. I think that, if you would have asked me before this game started, Sandercock was game two starter ready to go. I think that based on OU swings and just the way they were looking towards the end of the game, that her plan, like you said, she's ready to shift, she's ready to maneuver, she's ready to do those things. It might change, and we might see a different game two starter. I think Sale did a really good job. She got Florida State to swing a little bit more out of the zone. She got them on a rise ball. She did some things, but I think we're going to see G tomorrow. With that lefty, and I think that Florida State is going to be prepared for that. So, I think that OU's had their back against the wall quite a few times. So I'm never going to count them out. But Florida State getting that first one, I think, as you've seen, it's tough. It's tough to win the series when you lose the first one. I was lucky enough to get to do it one of those times, but it's hard. It's hard to play. But both of these teams have been playing constant elimination games, so I'll never count OU out. But it was huge for Florida State to get the first win today.
That was a good segue by you. Again, you've got this media stuff down. You're learning on every time you're on here, because you make a great point there. You were down. You dropped the first game to Tennessee and Monica Abbott, and back then, you're facing Monica Abbott every game, right?
Right.
It wasn't like, all right, well, she won't pitch game 2 or whatever. No, we're gonna get her. But you all figured it out. What is the key when you drop the first game? How do you come back and win a game 2 and a game 3 in a series when you've dropped the first game? What's the key?
I think we just collected information, and we did a really good job the next day of making adjustments. I also felt like, this was a long time ago now, but, Tennessee had made some adjustments in their game plan, game 2, that didn't end up making sense to us because, they did such a good job just keeping our offense down in the first game. So why make changes in the second game? I thought, Monica has a really great rise ball, and she didn't throw it nearly as much in the second game, and, stayed more side to side and in the zone against us. And that helped us, and it helped us build confidence in that second game to head into the third. So, it's nice because you gather information, you gather at bats. Not only are you gathering the information from your own at bats, you're gathering information from the other, 21 outs of the entire game and seeing how they're throwing and the sequencing and things like that. So, I think that's a little bit of an advantage too, is that we knew who we were going to face. And both of these teams and both of these staffs, there's a cat and mouse game going on with the pitching and the choices and, when to make the change and when not to make the change. And so the coaches are having a lot more, I would say, influence on these games than I've seen in the past. Their decisions are really kind of, impacting the game. And so it's kind of fun. It's fun. Now I'm a coach. Now I'm on the other side. So obviously as a player, the players are the ones that are going to go out there and win it. They're going to go and they're going to play their game. But to see now on the coaching side and seeing how these two master coaches are playing this cat and mouse game with their pitching staffs, it's something to definitely look at and learn from and just appreciate. It's fun to watch them.
Do you think this is softball moving forward? Do you think the days of a Monica Abbott pitching all 3 games, a one pitcher pitching 3 games in a championship series are over or far between? Because you look at the trend, you have obviously Florida State a couple of years ago with Megan King and Kylie Hansen there. UCLA with Garcia obviously carried most of the load, but they had pitching behind her as well that year. Maybe you could argue she's somewhat of the exception that year to some extent, but do you see this now being the norm here, where to win the national title, you need multiple arms and by staff because you have to give different looks to all these teams that have great offenses?
Yeah, I think that's the trend that we're heading. It used to be one pitcher that took you all the way through, and rarely did we see anybody else. Then it kind of headed to, there's a number 1, but there was a number 2 that was really strong that was going to eat innings. And now here we are, 2021, and we have staff of 3 trying to eat innings and compete. I think that the more information we're getting from video, the more technology is coming into play. That's kind of why I think that I see our trend heading that way, because teams are doing a lot to prepare for these pitchers. They have a lot of information, and just like the pitchers have a lot of information, the hitters have a lot of information, all of that. But when you're facing somebody 3 times, right, the advantage goes to the hitter when you're seeing the same person over and over again. Your timing gets better. You understand the sequencing gets better. You're seeing things better. So I think that with technology and just all of those things that we're seeing, I think we're trending in that direction. Now, I'm going to tell you, there's still going to be a special pitcher that we're going to see come up, and they're going to have a great World Series, and they're gonna go win it for their team. That's still going to happen. But I think overall the trend we're going to see is more of a staff, and I think that most coaches are trying to do that and head that direction.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about that because I still think of that Terran's performance in 2007, which I've talked to her about it. She won an ESPY for it. Like,
Two
we may
ESPYs.
never see. That's right. That's right. Wow, you kept better track than I do.
She
don't
keeps
tell
them in
her
her
that.
trunk.
That's what she told me. I couldn't believe she told me that.
I
Like,
think
I'm
she
like, where
finally
is?
put them up. I think
Okay.
she finally put them up. But when we were right out of college, they were like in her trunk of her car. I'm like, dude, you have 2 SPs. We need to.
Did she invite you to the SBs at all, or like how did? I'm trying to remember because I think I asked her, and I think she was kind of no, she didn't, right? Because I think she was limited on who she could take.
Yeah, I think she only got one guest, and I'm pretty sure she regrets who she took at this point, if I remember who she brought correctly.
Well, that's fair. But like, she threw every pitch.
Yeah,
she threw every pitch. We're never going to see that again, are we?
I don't think we will. I don't think we will. I think that was. I mean, that was kind of it. That was like the end of the. A couple of years later, like Megan Langenfeld, didn't she throw like almost all the pitches?
A lot, yeah. Lori, I think, threw a good chunk too. Yeah. But then shortly after that, you started seeing like 1-2 punches kind of starting getting in there for sure. I mean, Trina threw a lot at Alabama in 12, but you're right, not to the extent of Taryn. I mean, that's why they always bring that up every time. And I'm sure next year being the 15-year anniversary of that national championship, that's going to even get emphasized even more.
Right.
Pretty remarkable.
The year before in 06 when we won as well, Alicia pitched every pitch. Alicia Hollowell for us. So she pitched every single pitch that we had. So, I mean, yeah, there's definitely a trend. I think that there's going to be a special pitcher and a special athlete and a special team that might be all they have. And we might still see it again, but we're definitely heading in more of a staff direction. I just think that all the information that these teams have, it's just the hitters are getting better. The bats are better. There's just so many parts of it. And, I think it's good though, right? It's giving more people an opportunity. It's giving, they're getting to be on the stage and get those moments. Watson got her moment tonight and she took full advantage of it.
I agree. And it is funny. Like maybe if in today's game, Hollowell would have had to share more with Moet in 06 instead of taking the reins there. And then maybe Moet has to give way in 07. Although Moet, I think she went up against Monica Abbott like 4 times in that World Series. Because I think you dropped the game to Tennessee early in that tournament? And they had to see him. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
They put us in the losers bracket. I think we had to double dip Danielle Laurie to get back into the championship at Washington.
Was that Laurie 07? Wow. So you went through Laurie 07 there? Because you beat them twice, 2-0, 8-1. They were there, and then you beat Tennessee 1-0 in 10 innings the second game, and then shut them out 5-0 in the third game. That's insane. I'm blown away by that. That's crazy. You get to say you beat Monica Abbott. That's nuts. And you hit her. You hit her well.
My last college at bat was a hit I got against her. So now she's going to play in the Olympics. So that's a good thing to keep. So a little feather in my cap. My last at bat.
Telling you, root for her to get the gold medal. You could say your last hit was off a gold medalist.
Yeah.
All-time great. That's pretty wild. We're speaking with Kristie Fox, 2-time national champion here on In the Circle. We'll talk about Mike Candrea, who officially retired, had his press conference today in a little bit. But you mentioned you expect G to get the ball for Oklahoma. What do you think Lonnie does tomorrow at Florida State? And her staff, she starts Watson, brings Sandercock in relief. Does that mean she goes to Arnold with the game lead here to at least start the game here in game 2?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I really felt like we were going to see Sandercock game 2 for sure. I think that OU put some really good swings on her late in this game. They hit the ball real hard. So, I think she's going to pivot. That's that cat and mouse game that we're going to see. But I think that, based on what I saw today, that we could potentially see Arnold start the game tomorrow.
Yeah, we have a game lead, and then again, you could still bring her in later in the game in relief. You don't have, that's the advantage of a game lead here. I agree. I think you throw Arnold, see what happens early, and if you have a lead, you could always bring Sandercock in. But this is what they've done all year. This is nothing new to them. They don't really have to change too much because this is what they've been approached. They've only had 13 complete games, so I think this is right up their wheelhouse. The key is, can this offense continue? And that's the matchup. What does G. Juarez have to do to cool off this offense?
I mean, I think she's really shown up these past couple of days and shown what she's capable of. Florida State has a lot of lefties in their lineup, which, that lefty on lefty matchup is sometimes really difficult. And being able to have that ball, I think that the umpire zone tomorrow is going to be a key. If she can get a zone where that outside pitch is clipped in the corner and he likes what he sees, that could be tough for Florida State. So, she's done it. She's done it as of late. She showed. I think she's pitching with a lot of confidence right now. But those lefty on lefty matchups, I think, are going to come into play.
It really is, and that's going to be fascinating to see that adjustment there for Game 2 tomorrow night. We'll see. Either Oklahoma evens it out and we go to a Game 3 in the afternoon, or Florida State wins a second national title. It's 2018, which is kind of wild. So it's going to be I think you're going to see a lot of moving parts here tomorrow night. I think it could be kind of wild on that. I know you're going to be back with us here to recap it, Game 2. Before we let you go, obviously, the big story, other than the Women's College World Series, Mike Candrea announcing his retirement on Monday. Had his press conference today, spoke for almost an hour. I know that's not a surprise to you or anybody that knows him. He had his one-liners ready to go, telling Caitlin Lowe that she started as a director of ops and wasn't very good at it. But that was typical him. Obviously, Caitlin Lowe is named the head coach. She's taken over. She'll have her press conference on Wednesday. Your thoughts as someone who played for him and has obviously been impacted by him, your reaction. I've got a sense from a lot of the alumni this is not a shock, but yet it's sad at the same time because this is a very important figure in everybody's life that's been a part of this for like 36 years. It's going to be weird next year to see an Arizona game and he's not in the dugout.
Yeah, I mean, the influence that he's had on Arizona softball, but more so just the softball world in general, has been just tremendous. You know, he's paved the way for a lot of players and a lot of coaches. And, you know, he's one of those people, he's going to sit down with anybody and talk the game because he loves it and has a passion for it. And I think that, you know, I'm really grateful for my time that I got to spend at Arizona and learning from him. And, you know, it's so little about the game. It wasn't the game that made him special. It was the way he made the people around him feel. And it's outside of just the players, right? It's the community. It was the field guys. It was the, you know, like the director of ops, the SIDs. It is how he made everyone feel around him, which elevated us to a place where, you know, we got so much support. And so he's taught all of us so much. I think that he's had so many players come through that have, you know, gained a relationship that's outside of just a coach-player relationship. And that's so special. And, you know, I think that you kind of have seen that outpouring of not only people that have played for him, but just people involved in the sport, you know, that can really kind of just appreciate all that he has done for us. And, you know, I wasn't going to believe it until he said it because, you know, he loved this game so much. He poured his heart and soul into this game. He poured his heart and soul into Arizona softball. And so, you know, it's a sad day, but it's also a day that I think that, you know, we want him to have this next chapter too. You know, with his wife Tina, and to be a grandpa and, you know, be able to relax and settle down and then, you know, sit in the stands and support Caitlin as she takes over this legacy that he's created.
It's remarkable. Has he changed since you played for him? Because obviously you've gotten to know him. I mean, he said he stays in touch with everybody, sends out birthday text messages, tries to go to many of the players' weddings. I know you told me he's been to he went to your wedding, which not a lot of coaches do that. They say that, you know, they kind of say it, but they don't actually do it. He goes out of his way to do it. How has he changed over the last 15 years from when you played for him and you were recruited by him to now what you've gotten to know him, you know, over the last 15 years?
I mean, I think if you talk to any alumni, you know, the alumni that's older than I am, and, you know, he's gotten softer as the years have gone by. I think probably the biggest change that I've seen as of late is just appreciating the small things. I think our sport has evolved so much, which he's a huge part of. And we've seen just improvements across the country. It used to be a national championship or nothing. And I think that he's gotten to the point where he can appreciate the little moments and find success in the little moments and the small goals along the way, and celebrate those with the student athletes, you know. And I think our athletes are changing too, right? Our athletes need us to celebrate those moments along with them, and able for them to be confident and to get to those final goals. You know, if you never show appreciation until the very end, you know, the athletes don't respond to that anymore. So I think that, you know, a lot of coaches that have been in it as long as he has had a little bit harder of time, where I've seen him really try to adapt to the athletes that he's getting and what their needs are. And I think that that's something that he's been very, very good at. Is he's different for all of us, right? What Caitlin needed from him as a coach and what I needed from him as a coach was different. And every single athlete on that field needed something different from him. Some needed a father figure, some needed him to yell at them and get them going, and some needed a hug after something bad happened. And he did a really good job of identifying the needs of his players and being the coach that they needed him to be. And I think that that's what made him so great.
Yeah, and that's something you've told me in the past, that you learned from him about how to relate with players, because everybody's different. And you said that's something you took with you as you got into coaching. Do you remember what his reaction was when you told him you were going into coaching? Like, what was that like? Was he the type that would encourage people to go into coaching? Was he not? Because I know, like, Tim Walton's, like, he told me, like, he kind of tried to discourage Amanda Lorenz from getting into coaching because it's a tough industry. There's a lot of hours of work and things like that. I'm just curious, was he the type that encouraged you to go to coaching? Did he discourage? What was he like when you approached him about, hey, I'm getting into coaching?
Yeah, I kind of forced him to let me be the graduate assistant. I don't think that he necessarily wanted me to be, but I was going to be there for school anyways. And I was like, no, I'm going to be the graduate assistant. I'm going to help this year. So I kind of forced his hand, and it's kind of what I've always wanted to do. And, I think I've learned a lot from him. And, I definitely know that prioritizing my family and having, a good balance in my life is something that he's really, told me that I need to be aware of and keep my priorities straight, because it's easy to kind of get the blinders on and forget the bigger purpose. And, I was on the team when he lost his first wife. And I think that was a huge moment for him and a huge eye opener for him. And I think that it really kind of opened his eyes to, keeping his priorities straight and knowing what should come first at all times. And, that's something that he's always told me, family always comes first. And, don't get down this kind of, rabbit hole where you forget what's important. So, I've learned a lot that way. And, I think that being a woman coach with children, it provides its own set of challenges. And, I'm excited to, share my experiences with that. And hopefully I've just seen too many women have to walk away from doing this that I think are really great at it because of it. So, yes, I've learned that from Coach Candrea, and now I can have my own platform where I can encourage women and kind of help them, realize that there's going to be portions of it that are hard, and strategize and let them complain and then come up with solutions. Because I think that, you're seeing the Pac-12, it's full of women coaches, and we're heading that direction. And it's exciting, and we need to support each other, and we need to share the information that we have on how we're being successful in doing that.
Yeah, every coach in the Pac-12 is female, and 6 of 9 are alums, I believe is the stat, including Caitlin, who obviously gets promoted. I don't know. I can't imagine you two, they were roommates and teammates. Did you even talk about coaching back then? Like, it's kind of wild that you and her and even Taryn, who's obviously gone into coaching, you've all three been successful. I can't imagine that was even conversational like 15 years ago. Hey, let's get into coaching. Did it? I mean, it's pretty remarkable. It really is when you think about the odds. What are the odds?
Yeah, there's not very many of us that play for Coach Candrea that are in Division I coaching right now, and it was the three of us, and we were roommates.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. That's wild.
Yeah, it is pretty funny. I mean, I don't think we talked about it in terms of coaching. We weren't like, hey, we're going to coach. But I think that, especially Caitlin and I, we talked about the game all the time. We talked about the teams we were facing. We talked about our teammates, not in a bad way, but what we needed out of them for us to win. So there was a lot of coach talk going on just between friends that we didn't even really know was coach talk at the time. We were just talking about, we had mutual goals to be successful and our teams to be successful. So, we were talking about things that coaches talk about amongst ourselves. And same thing with Taryn, talking about pitching, talking about pitch calling, talking about pitches that she wished she would have done differently. All of those things were conversations that we were having that at the time we just didn't really realize were coach talk. But it was there. I mean, it was definitely there.
Yeah, no, I could sense that. Like, I've gotten to talk to all three of you. Like, It's in there. It was in there. It was probably in there when you were playing. You just didn't know, like you said. You just didn't know any better. But you were talking softball all the time, and it's tough to go away from the game. Right? Once you're done playing, you still want to be involved in coaching. The passion's there with you. The passion's with her. I've talked to her about it, and Taryn as well. And I think that's the thing. It's not an accident the three of you have been successful at it either. Like, I think you all have the passion for it. It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool that you all have kind of gotten to this level. I think that's a pretty awesome story that, although now that you're both, now you and Caitlin head coaches, I'm sure they'll be trash talking more now, but that's okay. that keep it between you all there. But
it never went away. It was always there.
Was it really? Were all three of you like who was the trash talker? The three of you back then? Like, I felt like Taryn was I could be wrong. I felt like Taryn you were the trash talker.
Yeah.
Wow. I could see that.
Probably.
That.
I would say that. I would say I was probably the worst.
Who was the more likely to talk back? Was it Caitlin or Taryn? Who was the one that would try to talk trash back?
To me?
Yeah.
Well, Caitlin, because we were super close. I mean, we were like attached at the hip. Like,
okay.
So yeah, there was definitely times where we drove to school together, and we wished that we had our own cars to drive home separately. But I mean, that's what it is. What it is when you're competitive people, right? So it's all in good fun. But you know, I'm excited. I'm excited for this, new step, and I'm excited to see where the program goes moving forward.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I've never seen that side of Kayla. She's always been quiet and very nice to me and good, but I'm not surprised at the same time by that. So that makes sense. But hey, best of luck to all of them, and as well as Coach Candrea, and a great career. He's impacted so many people in softball. It's just remarkable. And I appreciate you kind of sharing some of your stories about him on this, because he's very special to the sport. I mean, without him, a lot of this stuff's not going on in the sport of softball. And I think I'm glad that it's been great to see everybody kind of celebrate him. And it's been kind of cool. And it's been cool to have you on here tonight to break down this game. We'll have you on again tomorrow night. We'll see what comes up tomorrow, but appreciate your analysis, and we look forward to doing this again with you tomorrow night.
All right. We have a lot of things that these coaches are going to kind of put on for us. I think that's awesome, though. Usually we kind of know, you got the starting nine, you got the pitcher.
You're right.
We all know what to expect. And this is one of those series where we truly don't know what to expect, who's going to go and who's going to surprise us tomorrow. And I think it's really exciting. I think that's, something to look forward to.
People want you to get a prediction for tomorrow. Are we going 3, or is Florida State wrapping this up? What do you think? Are we going 3? It's tough, because this is it's tough, right? It's tough.
Yeah. OU's done a really good job of bouncing back every time their back's against the wall. And, I hate to be that person that says that home field advantage, but, I think them playing, with their fans and their people, I think that we're going to see a different team tomorrow. So, I'm almost rooting for 3 because I don't want it to end. So.
You and me both. Victor's in a very awkward situation. He has a flight to catch on Thursday as Victor joins us in the hotel. So he's in a bit of an awkward spot. Yeah. I think from a financial there's an economic side to it.
Economical purposes, I would like 2. As a softball fan, I would like to have 3.
There you go. Very good. There you go. That's the challenge that he's in. You and I don't have to worry about that this year. We're good. They can play forever. So, all right, Coach, we'll let you go. Appreciate you. We'll talk to you tomorrow night.
All right. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.
But that's head coach Kristie Fox of UNLV, also 2-time national champion at Arizona, sharing some great thoughts there on Coach Candrea, obviously, and that big news as Victor joins us now. Obviously, Vic, you're in an interesting situation, though. I mean, it's a good segue because Florida State came out hitting, and I'll say this. If G. Juarez or whoever don't figure out how to slow down this all of a sudden explosive Florida State offense, we may not get a game 3. What's your thoughts here on this? What you've seen from this Florida State offense now for the last 2 nights here, scoring runs in bunches, 16 runs against Alabama and Oklahoma.
And they're doing it from up and down the line of Kaylee Mudge leading the way, tying the WCWS record for hits with Jessie Warren, her teammate. And Jessie Warren tweeted her support, wanted her to break the record. I have a feeling she'll do that. And then, how about Kaylee Harding, the number 9 hitter, gets the home run, goes 3 for 4, 4 RBIs, and has that tremendous defensive play in right field to end the threat for Oklahoma. And I was so impressed with how Florida State handled the situation, which, look, let's be perfectly honest, it was a Oklahoma pro crowd, and Florida State, they took him out of it early. They jumped on him early, which they had to do. Keep that Sooner crowd quiet with that 2 spot in the third and that 5 spot in the fourth to kind of keep things interesting. And then they kept, and I think, and Coach Fox mentioned this, with the 7-run lead, Lonnie was able to afford to keep Watson,
no doubt,
on the bump.
No doubt.
And if you look through the first 5+ innings, Eric, she held Oklahoma. You take out the 2 home runs, she held Oklahoma to 2 hits. She was doing a good job of mixing up her pitches, getting early contact, weak contact in the outfield.
Well, and the good thing about the 2 homers, it sounds weird to say, but with Oklahoma, I think you do have this applies. There were solo shots.
Yes.
If you're gonna, you know what I mean, and you're up, you're up 7. And sometimes pitchers get in trouble where they get too cute when they have a big lead and give up base runners. Go at the hitters. Go at the hitters. Oh, we lost Vic. Wow. Go after the hitters. And at that point, if you give up a home run, then so be it. That's not the end of the world if you lose them. Is from that standpoint. And I thought that was smart. Like a lot of people got it. I thought, to me, that was refreshing there. Go after him. You gave up 2 solo homers. That's fine. You're still up 5 runs. I thought that was fine.
You kind of saw the same strategy last night when they took on Alabama, how they pitched to Bailey Hemphill, where they were up 8-2.
Yes.
Pitched to Hemphill, hey, give up a 2-run home run, no big deal. You're still up 8-4. It did get a little bit interesting at the end, just like last night with Alabama, but Sandercock was able to come in, shut the door, and preserve the win for Florida State. And now, Eric, Oklahoma, just like after losing to James Madison, they find themselves having to win 2 more elimination games to win the championship. And that's only been done 3 times since the Champ Series has been introduced. It was Michigan who did it in 2005. Of course, it's Samantha Finley home run. Arizona did it one year when they went back-to-back. I want to say it was 2007. I'll confirm. And then last time was 2012.
We just had our guest on from Arizona that did it. They lost that first game to Tennessee after coming out of the loser, but they won the last 2 games. They won a 10-inning game in game 2. So we did talk about that a little bit there. I tell you, man, the thing that's so wild about this is that this Florida State offense is coming to life. Elizabeth Mason's hitting the ball. Danny Morgan's hitting the ball. Fudge right now, Mudge to me is right now the World Series
she's
MVP.
If Florida State wins, Mudge is the most outstanding player.
Yeah. She sets the tone. And the thing is, from Lonnie's perspective, she got a lot of innings out of Watson. She brought Sandercock in relief. And her Coach Fox and I were talking. I mean, I could see them starting Arnold up 1, see how many innings you can eat up. You don't have to throw Sandercock right away. You could start Arnold, bring Sandercock or Watson in relief. That's the thing. This staff is built to be flexible. It's been that way. She's adapted to it. They only have 13 complete games. So just because you start somebody doesn't mean that they're going to throw the whole game.
Exactly.
I do expect G. Juarez to start. What was the talk as far as the Nicole May? A lot of people talking tonight about did they leave her in too long?
Well, I was surprised that she got to start in the first place. And if she did, and I mentioned this in our pregame show, which you can go to our YouTube page to watch right now with Jessica Schultz. I mentioned if they started Nicole May and she got in trouble, you could bring in Juarez like he did against UCLA. So I was kind of surprised after May gave up the 2 runs in the third that you didn't bring in Juarez in the 4th inning, particularly after giving up the home run for Harding. By 5-0, I feel you bring Juarez in, try to stem the tide, and who knows what happens.
I don't think she wanted to throw Juarez tonight. I don't think she definitely didn't want to throw her behind. It's an interesting thought. I think she was – it's hard to say in a best of 3. I think she was kind of trying to see how many innings she could get out of May. I don't think she wanted to throw Sale or Juarez. That's the sense I got. And I think she was forced to throw Sale in there to stay in the game.
Right.
because now I think she's going to throw Juarez game 2. I think sometimes coaches overthink this stuff. Well,
they think too much at times.
I really do.
Here's the thing. In a best of 3, I always say the most important game in a short series is always that first game. If you win that first game, you have that buffer for game 2.
Well, but it was interesting. I don't know if you were able to, I mean, obviously you were in the booth, so you probably didn't, like in the telecast, Lonnie told Holly Rowe that, because Holly asked her about starting Watson, and she's like, it's about gathering information. And we talked to Coach Fox about it. And I think both sides kind of use this game to gather, which is kind of crazy when you think about a game. But I'm not saying they're not trying to win, but I feel like both sides just kind of wanted, they felt like they just gone through this gauntlet to get here. May is the youngster of the group. Maybe this is the less pressure game to throw her instead of what if you don't throw her tonight and you lose and then you start her game 2 or game 3. There's more pressure, I guess. I'm just trying to think this out loud.
Right.
And look, Kelly makes a good point here. Gasso trusts May, and I do too. This is good for her development. Nobody was complaining about when she got the ball in game 1 against Washington in the Super Bowl, right?
No.
I mean, and G didn't pitch in that Super Regional. So
she did not. Shannon Sale got to start and won the clinching game.
Right. So who knows what's going in through the mind. But I think they definitely, in retrospect, should have pulled her down 4. I think to let it go to 7. Remember, no team, Baylor, I think, is the only team that's come back in the World Series coming from a 7-run deficit. And that was against Kentucky, I believe. Nobody's ever done it from an 8-run deficit. You're asking a lot. I don't care how good your offense is. You're asking a lot there. And I think it left Oklahoma with no room for error. And I think we saw that towards the back end of the game where Coach Gasso, and she admits in the presser, she wishes she had that back. She sends Jennings from 3rd down 4, which I was perplexed. I'm like, you have this dynamic offense. You're down 4. You need base runners. Why force the issue?
That's what happened. I think she tried to steal a run, get some extra momentum for her team, but because of that, you run into an out. And that play goes back to the previous inning with the play at the plate with the collision. And our Florida State friend was tweeting at us saying that we were anti-Florida State again, but I will hold off on that.
Do they even listen to the show?
Obviously not. Obviously they don't, but you know what, Eric? We're here to praise Florida State and to praise the umpires. Don Brown, who was the unplayed umpire, called both plays correctly.
Yes.
There was clear obstruction, and I don't care if you had 10,000 Sooner fans booing the umpire saying get the call right. He got the call right. And he got the call right where Anna Shona was perfectly placed right in front, right outside of home plate, let the runner get the lane, and the throw was perfect where the ball came right into the catcher. Boom, catcher applies the tag to the runner's foot. Boom, she's out. So the umpire got both calls right.
Yes.
And we have to give him credit.
And I did. I think you're right. By the rule, they got it right. That doesn't mean that the rule is not a terrible rule. And it needs
Absolutely.
to be right.
And here's the problem. And here's the thing, Eric. In the press box, there were a lot of reporters, shockingly, who didn't know what the rule was. So does that not surprise? But that doesn't surprise me because you're having people.
No, but that's fine. Look, but you're right. But that's okay. I mean, look. I mean, you have to take the good with the bad. Like when the game grows, you're going to have more people that don't follow the sport. I get all that.
By the way, wearing a jersey in the press box during Game 1 of a championship series, that is not proper media attire, but that's neither here nor there. Thank you for attending my TED Talk.
I don't think. I mean, look, Jim Ross is a legend. He can wear what he wants. Look, I get he's a Sooner.
Jim Ross was not in that press box, sir.
Oh,
he's the only one I will excuse of doing that.
So who was? Wait, was it a Sooner? No. What? Who? What?
I will refrain from commenting any further.
What?
I will refrain from commenting any further.
All right. Carry on. Moving on.
Thank you, Kendra Perkins. I will carry the hell on.
I'm like, all right.
Reset.
I've lost my thought. I cannot. Okay. What was I? We were saying before.
We were talking about obstruction, and you were talking about how the rule is stupid.
Like we're asking a lot out of the catchers, aren't we? Like
we are.
Like a lot of this is instinctive stuff. It's not like they're doing it. Like I just think it's got to control.
They're not purposely they're not purposely blocking runners from home plate. It's just that they're instructed to wait for the ball at a certain position so that way when the ball comes in, they can tag the runner. This obstruction rule is forcing catchers to make unnatural or more difficult plays than what it needs to be.
I agree.
I'll give you a perfect example. You remember Game 2 of the Washington-Michigan Super Regional? Where that
Do I? It was late night.
Yeah, Game 2, not Game 3. Where the throw brought the catcher onto the baseline, and they called obstruction, and Coach Hutch went absolutely bonkers. And she's probably still mad about that call if you talk to her. That is what we're trying to prevent. That is a natural play being awarded to the base runner because the fielder made a perfect throw. And yes, Cali Rep, you're correct. The obstruction clause were clear. Had the catcher been in a better position, it would have been close to the plate. I understand that. But the whole premise of this obstruction is that we need to have clear, definitive language, which tells us what is and what isn't obstruction. And don't leave it for any interpretation, because being an official, Eric, you hear a rule, one official is going to have one interpretation, another official is going to have another interpretation, and then another official is going to have a different interpretation from the previous two.
Yeah. Yeah, it needs to be addressed. Coach Fox thinks they'll get addressed. It needs to get addressed. It's just
hopefully, yes.
What's it going to
make it more black and white?
Because here's my question: can you imagine if this was the bottom of the seventh in Game 3 for the national championship, and that's what decides it? How? Because we're getting
and it doesn't go Oklahoma. So let's say, and if this happens, please clip this and send it to us. I don't think it will, but we're heading down the road. Let's say tie game, bottom of the seventh. Janet Johnson's at second. You get a base hit through the right side. Johns rounds third. They apply the tag. Sheldon applies the tag, but the umpire sticks his arm out like this. Trying to get it for the video for the people. Sticks out his arm, calls obstruction, and OU wins the national championship because of an obstruction call.
It could be.
As somebody who has had a national championship taken away because of a penalty, 2003 Fiesta Bowl, I'm still bitter about that flag.
Come on. Get over it.
Yes, I am.
Listen, but look, here's the thing, though. Like, the Florida State in the situation in the body, they didn't call obstruction there. I'm not saying it was obstruction, but she was on top of home plate. But everybody's like, well, but at least she didn't, I just think there's a lot of gray in this rule. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of talking about it. I understand the intent was for safety, but this is, come on, man. It's tired. It's enough. Like these catchers, I think we're asking way too much of these catchers.
We are.
And I think I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of it. And I'm telling you, we're getting close to having a prominent game. Right now, we got record numbers, man. We got record viewer numbers. Over a million watch an average for all the World Series games prior to the championship series. The Alabama FSU game, 1.6 million people. This could be one of the most watched softball games ever.
Imagine if it's decided on that call.
That's my concern.
Imagine if it's decided on that call.
Again, I think the umpires called it correctly. So I'm not umpires on this one. I think the rule leaves for a lot of interpretation. And that's the problem. When you leave it to interpretation, you're going to be in some problems. And it's just we're headed for a bad. It just is. So hopefully it doesn't this year, but I hope they do look at it. I know everybody wants to change the schedule and have 2 months, to play the series. I get all that. And I think it will get tweaked. I do think that the TV numbers will help it expand. I think that's a plus. But I think we got to get instant replay in this, and we got to get rid of obstruction. Those two things need to be addressed.
And until the people in positions of power who can make those decisions want to make those changes because the players are asking for it, the fans are asking for it, heck, analysts are asking for it.
I hope so.
Until those people want to make that change, then there's going to be no change.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Kelly. If the catcher's on top of the plate, how is the runner? What is the runner supposed to do in that scenario? To me, let's just get rid of it. Let's go back to the old ways. You know what? Yes, there's going to be contact sometimes. That's sports. That's why catchers wear a lot of equipment. Come on. It's enough. Anyway, let's move on. I'm sure we'll get another call before the next 2 nights, one night or whatever. So what do you expect to see now here tomorrow? I mean, this is, in a lot of ways, this is compelling here. You got the number 1 ranked team in the country needing to win against a Florida State team that is on fire. This is so eerily similar to the 18. I mean, they made a great defensive play tonight. It wasn't a Jesse Warren-esque play, but it was the relay.
It was a dang impressive one nonetheless.
Right. What do you expect to see here tomorrow night?
Well, Oklahoma will be the visiting team, so they'll get a chance to jump on whoever Florida State starter will be early. That's the biggest thing. If you're Oklahoma, you need to put up at least a 2 spot in the first, 3 spot in the first. Give yourself some confidence, get that crowd in it, because the OU crowd was silent mostly for the first half of the game.
But wait a minute, Vic. Everybody tells me they have this huge advantage at home. How are they losing these games? I mean, that's why we're supposed to move this tournament, because Oklahoma has such an unfair advantage.
Okay, look, I'm sick. I'm just gonna.
I'm just saying they've lost now 3 straight national championship series games in Oklahoma City. I mean, it's like I don't hear anybody complaining about the Sugar Bowl being in New Orleans or like the Peach Bowl in Atlanta being, Jesus, like the games have to be played somewhere. We're playing. It looked great on TV. I don't know. How did it look in person? There did not look like an empty seat at all.
They said that they had a new attendance record for the championship series, 12,312, and I think that record will be shattered tomorrow night.
I agree. And I don't know how many venues can do it like that. Like some of my SEC people are trying to bring up Hoover. That's a baseball stadium.
Time out. Okay, let me get this straight. You people who on Sunday were complaining about a temporary fence and let a softball get underneath it for a ground rule double want to move the Women's College World Series to a baseball stadium where we're going to have ding, 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 temporary fencing. Are you freaking stupid? Really?
I mean, it's some of the SEC people. What can I tell you? That's all I'm going to say.
It just means more. What can I say? But
means more
here's
something.
The thing.
Here's the thing.
What other? If y'all want to say let's move it, where do you want to put it? Come on, give me suggestions. Give us suggestions. If you're talking about moving the Women's College World Series away from Oklahoma City, where do you place it?
Not with the venue like that. That was a beautiful setting.
Exactly. Find us a venue with that seating, with the capacity, with the ability to get multiple cameras. None of them with instant replay, but that's a whole nother issue. That's not a baseball stadium.
Right.
We'll be waiting.
Exactly.
We'll be waiting.
So you want Oklahoma? I agree with what you're saying, Oklahoma, but I got to tell you, Oklahoma's got to play a clean game. They did not. I think they made 3 errors. We talked in the pregame. I talked to Schultz about this. Florida State's going to challenge them. That was the matchup, right? The speed of Florida State, against a team that could win. The great arm of Hansen.
Yes.
And guess what? FSU won that battle. And and really the short game gave Oklahoma some problems. So they got to play a clean game. They've got to play a clean game. Got to keep Florida State off the base pads. I think that's more important, to be honest with you, than scoring too early.
And I feel Oklahoma was rattled when Florida State got Florida State. Remember, Florida State got 2 on and no out in the first, If not for that great play by Donahue in left field to get that double play, Florida State could have scored early in the first inning.
Right, they had a miscue in the miscommunication on the double play ball. No, that's what I'm saying. They need to play a clean game. That's what they knew. They need to play a clean game. And I keep telling people this. Florida State causes havoc on the base paths. You're feeding into that. Say what you will about the obstruction, whatever. The reason it was caused was because Florida State was able to get themselves in scoring position.
Mm-hmm.
And they got to find a way to get Mudge out. Nobody's getting Mudge out. You got to get them off the bat. That's what they live off. And Cheryl swinging the bat. I mean, this is the best they've swung the bat in a long time. And that's the wild card. I didn't anticipate this. I mean, by the way, maybe UCF's pitching staff should get more credit. They're the only team in the postseason that held them in check. Like, even LSU didn't. Like, I know they had the 1-0 game in game 1, but FSU got 4 off LSU of Kelponen in game 2, and Rachel shut him out. So Rachel Garcia and UCF are the only teams that have shut Florida State down.
And Florida State,
That's insane.
Yeah, and with Florida State, Florida State, you don't know where it's going to come from, but you know it's going to come from somewhere in that lineup. It could be Mudge, it could be Sheldon, right. It could be Mason, and Lonnie has a lot.
And it could come in a lot of different scenarios. I mean, They tried the squeeze play, didn't work tonight, but they have been successful with that in the past.
Yes, and remember, they're top 10 top 6 in the nation in stolen bases, which is uncharacteristic.
Yes.
For a Florida State team, they rely a lot on the home run ball in the past, but they're winning with speed, they're winning with defense, and going along and partnering well with that 3-headed monster, Watson, Sandercock, and Arnold.
Yep. And I think that's going to be the move moving forward here. I think that's the move. And, it's going to be a challenge for Oklahoma. They got to play a clean game. It was very interesting. I know you thought they should have gone with Juarez there. It's interesting because it used to be that was the philosophy, right? You go with your ace early. You go with your ace to close out, in a team. Alabama didn't go to their ace to close out Florida State. They went with Kilfoy. Here, Oklahoma doesn't go to their ace, although some would argue that Nicole May at some point was their ace. So who knows? It's Coach Fox meant. This is such a unique series because both of these teams have 3 pitchers. They kind of move them around in different roles, and you don't really know exactly what you're getting on a daily basis. And as I mentioned, I mean, I wonder if this is the new softball we're going to see here moving forward in postseason, and the days of the Taryn Moats are over.
Right, and I think with Florida State, they essentially call it check. We're playing chess. Florida State called check with Oklahoma in game 1. What is the counter move for Patty Gasso and Jen Rocha? What is the counter move for them? And how does Lonnie respond to that move? Because game 2 is going to be so fascinating. We all presume that G. Juarez is going to start for Oklahoma. And now Lonnie is...
I agree. I would be surprised at this point, to be honest with you.
And this is where winning game 1 gives you an advantage because you can dictate how you want to approach game 2. If you're Lonnie Alameda, do you start Sandercock, who Oklahoma got to look at a little bit towards the end of game 1? Do you throw Kaylin Arnold in game 1, knowing that you have Sandercock and Watson available in your bullpen? That's going to be the...
You mean game 2? You mean in game 2?
In game 2, excuse me. That's going to be what I'm going to be looking forward to in game 2. What does Lonnie do in her starting with the start? Does she start Sandercock or does she start Arnold? I thought she was going to start Sandercock in game tonight and then bring in Arnold, but then she pitched Watson, and you saw how well she pitched. And we have to stress what Coach Fox talked about before I came on, Eric. Getting State to that 7-0 lead gave Alameda a longer leash for Watson, because the longer they had the big lead, the longer she can let Watson pitch, and that's pitches off the arm of Sandercock and Arnold. That could come in big order if this goes to a game 3.
We'll see what happens. It's gonna be awkward for you because, like, This is your last game tomorrow night. And yet, if Oklahoma wins, you're not going to see a national champion in person. It's the opposite problem that I had in 18. In 18, I had a flight for Thursday, but the series ended on Tuesday. So I actually had to reschedule my flight to leave earlier. You have the opposite problem.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because of this shuffling of the schedule. So I don't know what that means, except if history is any indication, we're probably going to head to 3 games because that would be fitting for you, I feel like. Just to have
it'd be fitting for this World Series, to be perfectly honest with you, sir.
Oh my God, yeah. We'll see. We'll see with that. Couple quick notes before we signing off, right? Because we're done with guests tonight, are we?
Yeah, we're supposed to have another guest coming on, but some situations happen. But we will try and connect with that individual at a later date and time.
Okay. Just wasn't sure because we're past midnight Eastern over here. We will have a pregame show tomorrow. Ashley Waters, the Boston University head coach, will join us in the pregame. What time is first pitch tomorrow? This year they've kind of changed it up. It used to be consistent, 8, but they've moved it up and it's different, right? What time is tomorrow?
Yes, first pitch tomorrow is going to be 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock Central, which means our pregame tomorrow will be at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central.
5 p.m. Eastern. I'm glad you're all right. Just remind me of that when I wake up. I mean, it's kind of weird that they moved them up this year.
Yes.
Yeah. That's kind of wild. They'll have Coach Waters on for the pregame. We'll be on for about an hour. We'll talk about it to get you set for game 2. And then Coach Fox will join us for game 2 for the recap. And then if there's a game 3, we'll let you know what we're going to do. I have no idea yet because it's early. Game 3, in theory, would start at 3 Eastern.
2 Central. At that point in time,
the only thing we don't know. The only thing we know is that. Right, that's the only thing we know for sure.
The only thing I know is that I'll be at an airport getting ready to fly to Orlando. Whether there'll be softball play during that time, we will find out tomorrow.
Yeah. Other quick notes before we sign off. As we mentioned, obviously, we talked to Coach Fox. Mike Candrea had his press conference today, obviously, with his retirement. 36 seasons. Caitlin Lowe's the new head coach. She will be officially introduced on Wednesday in a press conference at the McHale Center there. News out of Hofstra. Jay Miller announces his retirement. So here we go. Victor, another legendary head coach, a long career. Lou Harris-Champer, Mike Candrea, now Jay Miller. Back here. So now Hofstra is open. My interpretation, my guess is a better choice of word. I am curious if Courtney Oliver ends up there. Obviously played at Hofstra under the Bill Edwards tree, was the head coach at ECU. Wonder if I think she's could be a front runner candidate for that job. It's a question of whether she wants that job or not. That remains to be seen on that. So that's the news from that job standpoint today. There's some news out of Division II of note here. I don't know how significant this would be in the Division II landscape, but Nicole Tynes promoted to head coach at Wayne State University, Victor. Their Upper Iowa head.
Not surprising.
You're not surprised by that?
No, because she's taking over for one of the legendary head coaches of all time who announced his retirement. So Tynes essentially – just like what we're seeing of Arizona, which we saw at San Diego State with Stacey Nuva-Denise, associate head coaches getting promoted to head coaching.
Stacey was officially named the head coach at San Diego State. She had been the coach in waiting. I don't know why it took it as while as it did, but it's official. So that's a good move there. There's still some Mountain West jobs open in Nevada, Boise State, Fresno of note there, to say the least. Another D2 job. Seward County Community College head coach Ryan Wontrasek, now the new head coach at Northwestern Oklahoma State in D2. And then Upper Iowa head coach Ashley Hickman, named to be the new head coach at Western New Mexico there. So those are some of the head coaching jobs at D3. Utterbean announced that Brooke Donovan has stepped down to pursue an opportunity with College Coaches Skills Camp. So my point is, as we get towards the end here, of the Women's College World Series, we're going to start seeing more and more coaching moves, I think, in transactions here in the carousel. Yes. And then, by the way, the transfer portal obviously will be pretty significant as well. So that's the news there. So we'll see how this your top 3 games of this Women's College World Series, if you have time. I don't know. Do we really want to rank them before the series is over? But I guess all right, we'll answer your question, Los Angeles. Hey, Victor, you've been there for every game in person. How would you rate the top 3 games of the World Series right now?
Wow.
Right now, as someone who was there.
I would say Oklahoma State JMU's number 1.
Which one, to be specific? The first one?
The Friday night game. To play with the dive at Odyssey Alexander.
Oh, the Oklahoma State. Okay, I heard.
Oklahoma State. JMU, Oklahoma State.
Got it.
Oklahoma State, JMU's number 1.
Gotcha.
Florida State, Arizona, number 2. Particularly that wild game, the way it ended, and that ended up being Mike Candrea's final game. And then number 3, I would have James Madison, Oklahoma, Thursday.
As of now.
As of now.
You know what's funny? It's I think those are good choices. I think the Oak State JMU game, that finish was wild. The Oklahoma UCLA game had a lot of hype. It just kind of got away there. I agree with you about Arizona, Florida State. That's obviously very significant in a lot of ways. That's very significant, to say the least. That's probably at the top. JMU, Oklahoma, that's the Thursday game was significant. The perfect game, it's funny you didn't bring up the perfect game with Montana Fouts. That's historic.
Well, the key is game. The key is game. The performance of Montana Fouts, I think, outshined the game. It was a great performance. But I think after Alabama got those 2 runs, it almost felt like it was a fait accompli, so to speak.
No, that's history, though.
It's still history.
It hadn't happened in 21 years. So I would probably, that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, a tremendous performance by Fouts. But we're talking about games, not performances. We're talking about games.
But I'll remember that.
I know.
So, all right.
I know. We all will.
There's your list. By the way, TV numbers, real quick. Women's College World Series going into Game 1 of this championship series, averaging 1.06 million viewers. That's 5% up from 2019. And it's the highest average ever at this point of the event. They've never had better numbers at this point going into a championship series than they have right now. The Alabama-Florida State Monday night game did a 1.63 million. That's the second most watched pre-finals Women's College World Series game ever, behind LSU Michigan semifinal in 2015, which did 1.95 million. That's a pretty significant number. That's an enormous number.
Wow.
Now, I think it helped that it was put in a slot that is normally a championship series game 1 slot. I think that helped it. Here's the interesting thing, by the way, for all those people that was complaining about the midnight start for Florida State, Oklahoma State. Apparently there was a lot of people watching it. It did 532,000 people watch that, stayed up to watch the game.
532,000 for a game that started 10 minutes before 1 a.m. Eastern time, by the way.
Correct. That's I don't think, and people may not understand, to get a number like that for past midnight Eastern time, that's insane. I got bad news for you coaches. They're going to put more games at 2 a.m. if they get those numbers. That's an insane number. That's an insane number. I've never, listen, I follow these numbers. You know me, there are people that know me. I'm a huge tennis geek. The Australian Open would kill to get 532,000 in their time slot in the morning, in that 2-3 a.m. block. Are you kidding me? That is whoa. So people could be mad about, should they have played that late or not? guess what? From a TV standpoint, they made the right call. That is a monster number for that slot. Like, Sports Center doesn't get those numbers.
And you have to remember,
unless
Eric,
it's Van Pelt.
Unless it's Van Pelt. And you have to remember, Eric, there are a lot of Florida State and Oklahoma State fans that were waiting 2 or 3 hours to watch that game. So you have to put that into consideration as well.
Yeah. I'm blown away by that number. That is a monster number for a game that ended at 2:18 in the morning. There's probably not like 90% of the college baseball super regionals they're going to be playing this next weekend are going to kill to get that number.
I don't know if any baseball super regional. I don't know if any baseball super regional is going to match that number that you just read about Florida State, Oklahoma State.
At 2 in the morning, like 12 midnight. That's unbelievable. That's going to be interesting to follow. I'm going to monitor. From a championship series standpoint, I'm wondering, can it crack 2 million? What do you think? Give me an idea here. I'm going to try to get you some numbers.
I will say 1 point. Now, what's going to be interesting, Eric, is if there is a game 3, because you're going to be on at 3 p.m.
That's going to be the monkey wrench. Yeah.
Because that's going to be on at 3 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon on ESPN 2.
Yeah, that's going to kill it. I mean, and again, this is going to be a hurdle. If you want to expand the schedule, that's going to be a hurdle. You can't, because that's going to hurt the number. Now, I will give you this number. 2 years ago on Tuesday night, all right, which where we're at. Yes. UCLA at Oklahoma, which you were there. That was the dramatic UCLA win to win the national title.
Kinsley Washington walk-off,
yes, it did 1.8 million that night. Do you think tonight's game reaches that number, is below it, or higher, or push? I'll give you the Michael Wilbon treatment. What do you think? 1.8 million.
Ooh, I will. Wow. I'm going to say over.
By the way, that was the largest. By the way, that was the largest audience for a Women's College World Series game since Game 3 of Michigan-Florida in 2015. Game 3, which did 2.27 million, which is one of the most watched softball games of all time. Just to give you an idea on that. So you're going over 1.8 is what you're saying.
Yes.
I think it's close. I will say they slightly up. I think it's slightly up. The thing that's going to hurt it, and I think you make a great point, if it goes 3 games, they're not going to get that pop. Because game 3s, if you look at the history of the Women's College, the most watched games are game 3.
On game 3. They get huge numbers on game 3s.
And they're not going to get that. They're not going to get it.
Although I will say, don't underestimate the stop. Look, if you could get 523,000 people to watch a softball game to last until 2 in the morning Central Time, don't underestimate the softball fan, because a lot of those players, they're going to be out of school for the summer. Some of them may be done with their tournament games for the day. And again, it's the afternoon. So I'm not saying
it's hard. It's hard to get a big number in the afternoon because people are working. Things like that. Like, I'll give you an example. I'm going to read you real quick. The most watched softball game of all time. Here's a hint. Our guest earlier was part of it.
07.
Tennessee, Arizona, game 3, 2.33 million. Michigan, Florida, the game I just mentioned, 2.27 million. The 05 Michigan, UCLA game, 2.24. All of them are game 3. The most watched non-championship series game, as I mentioned earlier, is LSU Michigan 109-5. Florida Michigan 187. I told you Oklahoma UCLA was 1.8. They finished 8th. That's the 8th most watched softball game ever. They're probably bummed out. If that would have gone 3, they would have had a shot to break the record because that thing was stuck,
Oh, absolutely.
So I think game 2 will have I think we'll go over 2 million if it's a good game. If it's a good game.
If it's a good game. If it's a good game.
Unfortunately, to get 2 million on a 3:00 p.m. Eastern, I think I'll give you this. I think it'll be the most streamed softball. I think you're going to see. I think people are going to be streaming the game. That's why I don't think it'll be as big of a TV number.
So you think the streaming numbers are going to be historic, not the actual viewership on ESPN2?
Yes. Why do I say that? Because if you're at work, it's easier to be on your computer and watch the game than it is to put on a TV.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, you know what I mean? So but we're getting ahead of ourselves. We got to see if it goes 3.
Yes, we do. We do.
We don't know if it's going to go 3. But I'm just saying,
we're putting the cart before the horse.
But I am curious to see how this game does. 1.8 million UCLA Oklahoma 2 years ago. Granted, it was game 2, but it was on a Tuesday night. So we'll see what happens with that. It does help them that the Sixers blew out the Hawks tonight. I think that'll help them as well on that. But we'll monitor that on In the Circle here as that all plays itself out. But we're going to call it a night here, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks to Kristie Fox for joining us on this edition. Thanks to you, Vic, for joining us. We'll be back again tomorrow, 5 Eastern. Game 2 pregame. Ashley Waters, the Boston head coach, will join us. Get you set for game 2. Victor will join us from the stadium. No, he's not going to cause an alarm at the stadium to get better connections. People are really trying to come up with some theories for you to help you out there. That's a little too far.
I mean, does the heavy is the head of the crown that is fire alarm, Vic.
And then we'll have a post game tomorrow night, game 2. Will we be crowned a national champion? Or will we be talking about a game 3? Is Victor going to be talking to people post-game of a national? Who knows? Who knows? We've got a lot to discover on that. So thanks to everybody for tuning in. Make sure you watch our replay and In the Circle. I'm going to post up the post-games press conferences now, and you'll be able to watch that on that.
Oh, and Kelly, I made my picks on the pregame show today. I said OU in 3, although I ain't looking real good about that right now.
Yeah, but you're not changing right now. That's what you're saying.
No. I'm staying strong with my picks.
That gives you an idea. That gives you an idea there. All there for a good game. So, all right, everybody, get some rest, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. This has been In the Circle live from OKC.
Good night, Canada.